So for the second week in a row, we have to lament a pretty poor Freo game and maybe lose sight of the winning team, which sucks a little bit because Collingwood were awesome and they are going to be getting their flowers in the video. They got their flowers in the title of the video as well. But yes, the overwhelming part of this conversation is going to be how the hell do you go from the Marvel Stadium meh to home crowd, long break. They left 4 blokes in Victoria because they couldn't be bothered travelling with them. Well, 3 in De Goey. And you serve that crap up for 2.5 quarters. I give up. So I kind of want to bring a little bit more structure to these game reactions. It also helps me organise my thoughts, makes the videos maybe a little bit shorter, hopefully, but more structured I think is going to be more beneficial for you watching at home. And yeah, it's it. I'm done. I give up on Freo. And look, part of it is my fault. I think if you want to do the pie graph of blame right now, you would probably give it to 45%, I think, to JL. I would probably give 45% to the players. And I would give 10% of it to me because don't forget, I had Adelaide in my top 4 coming out of 23 into 24. And the team that I had making that jump in 25 was not the Pies. It was the Dockers. And I think I have to own that. So I am owning that. Freo fans, I'm not saying don't hold your footy club accountable. All I'm saying is that if you need to vent your anger at someone that reads all of their comments on social media, vent below. This is your safe space. Just get it all out there. I was a chef for 7 years. You are not going to hurt my feelings, I promise you. Stories for another day, let me tell you. But overall, the game plan is crap. And in fact, the only change that needs to be made, the only ball movement mantra that Freo need to adopt from here on out is fuck it. That's it. They are the only words on the whiteboard. Every time they moved the ball and looked like they went, fuck it, let's see what happens. Things happened. Extraordinary. And also my first reaction for this game, and this will lead me into the part of the winners dissection here in the video, is Collingwood might have the most underrated backline in the competition, which for Collingwood to be underrated in anything is incredible. And they might also have the most underrated player of the last 10 years. So before we get into more Freo bashing and hair pulling and all those kinds of things, let's talk about the Pies because they were fantastic. So obviously the ballsiness to not send the 4 blokes over that they didn't was awesome. Now you could argue that the De Goey one, because he's hurt, is not that ballsy a take. No, that's fair enough. Off a 5-day break, but it really does show you that a system that has the buy-in and ability to execute is so fun to play with. The way that Bobby Hill and Jamie Elliott, who of course, congratulations to Billy the Kid, who was able to kick, I think his career high or equal career high with half a dozen schnaggers. Bobby Hill also getting up the ground was fantastic. Both of them working in tandem was great. I liked what the guys who came in did. Ed Allen had some nice moments. Don't really know if he's going to have a long-term future as a defender, but look, there's no spot for him in that midfield, especially with Ned Long being there. I know Ned was a little bit quieter, but he's still playing that role to perfection at this point in time, so can't argue with that at all. Lockie Sullivan is just becoming a pain, and I mean that in the most complimentary way possible because everything that he does just makes you go, I don't think they can drop him. Yet he's got that either first or second guy out kind of vibe. And again, I don't mean that in a negative way in the slightest. It just feels like when the 4 come back next week, is it going to be a case of he misses out because the other blokes that are above him are just a fraction too good? Yeah, I can see that happening, to be honest, which would stink because I thought he was awesome throughout the majority of the night. I really liked the Darcy Cameron versus Luke Jackson matchup. Now, yes, Darcy did help Jackson a lot, and Jackson was really instrumental in the second half, no doubt, but Darcy Cameron's just in unbelievable form. Cox was pretty good as the chop-out option. Found it really weird that Cox lined up at the centre bounce, I think, for 3 of the 4 quarters. If I'm remembering correctly, it might have been the 3rd that he didn't. I'm sure someone will correct me about that in the comments. I mean, I had Ash Johnson as Sam Draper in my trade video because my editor was awake at 3:30 in the morning editing things. It's not an excuse. It's just a reason. And as much as we're going to lament Freo's ball movement, Collingwood's was unbelievable. And what was so lamentable, I suppose, as someone that tipped Freo, is that the amount of times that they were allowed out the back. And not just inside the forward 50, by the way. Yes, Elliott, Hill, they were able to expose, and Membry a couple of times as well, who probably should have capitalised a little bit better. Come on, Timmy, you're better than that. But what was so crazy for the Pies is the amount of times that they were allowed out the back on transition. The amount of offensive handballs that the Pies were able to generate from pretty much halfway through the first quarter to, well, halfway through the fourth, I suppose, was just unbelievable. It just kind of made you go, oh, what is going on? But overall, I hope the story of the game is not just Freo shat the bed, because the Pies, with what they did, who they had missing, needed a system to stand up. They were down by 3.5 goals in time on in the first quarter. To pull that kind of win off is an extraordinary show of maturity, and them and Brisbane are so far the best teams in the comp right now. It's not funny. And I love what Tim Membry has done to this side. I hope Nick Dacos is okay. I hope Lachie Schultz is okay. And look, I'm indifferent about booing. I'm not a massive fan, but I kind of get it in terms of tribalism and a bit of up yours kind of mentality. I get it even if it's not something that I do. But booing him when he's coming off the ground, when he's injured, didn't love that all that much. So fans, you're better than that. I know you're angry at your team, but Lachie Schultz should probably be the last bloke you should be upset at this point in time. But the Pies, massive win. Craig McRae, you're a star. And the Pies are firing this much with Dacos not having a big influence, with Dan Houston not having a big influence. And for some reason, Collingwood fans think that I hate Billy Frampton. I know that I gave him a little bit of shtick for the performance in the grand final, and there are Collingwood fans that despise me for saying that. But he was fantastic. And just a heads up, if Darcy Moore is not your All-Australian captain right now, or is not your All-Australian centre-half back, I'd probably have a bit of a rethink about that. So, the Pies, awesome. Let's talk about Freo. Yay. So outside of that first reaction in terms of what I'll talk about with Freo is I genuinely think that Freo's problem on transition is they have too many blokes that actually can't be trusted in using the footy. So I can kind of understand everyone, and look, I'm one and the same as well, that thinks that JL is going to cop a lot of criticism, probably rightly so, because the game plan says that they need to move faster on transition, faster on the switch. They don't have good enough ball users behind the ball. Luke Ryan is not having a good season, and people are going to point to his Supercoach or his fantasy numbers, and frankly, I and Freo fans do not give a shit if he's having 140 down back. If you're switching the play and giving it up to Bobby Hill, who I know kicked a point off that horrible switch, and then Ryan went down the line effectively, favouring his right foot, and on transition led to the Paddy Voss goal. Yes, it was from a push, Frampton, silly boy, I understand that, but move the ball quickly, it worked, but this on the 45, half switch, corridor ball just did not work. Caleb Sarong had probably the kick of the night, and then Neil Erasmus probably had the second best kick of the night, well, probably second and third behind Beau McCreary's kick into the corridor. Can't remember who marked the ball. Might have been Lachie Schultz, actually, but that was an awesome kick from wing half forward, basically to centre half forward to Hoskin Elliott. Was insane. I don't think Hoskin Elliott hit a target with that kick, but come on, Will. But that was fantastic. Isaiah Dudley continues to show a lot. Execution in front of the sticks, not perfect, but he's got enough that you really want to work with that and keep him in the side. He should never be sub again. I think I said that after the Richmond game off the top of my head, but I digress. But Luke Ryan, Jordan Clark, Cooper Simpson, Heath Chapman, as a collective, not good enough down back in order to pull all of this off. In terms of guys I would trust by foot, number one would be Jordan Clark. You'd think Ryan would be number two, but it's a little bit like James Sicily right now. Coming into this season, would I have said Sicily is a top 10 field kick in the comp? Yes. The same as Jordan Dawson. Am I saying it now? Well, Dawson may be the back end of the top 10. Sicily, hell no. Because you can only go off your eye test. And Luke Ryan right now couldn't kick a fat guy in a street fight. That's just the way that this is working right now. And Heath Chapman had some bad turnovers tonight. In all honesty, Cooper Simpson is their second best ball user out of defense. Now, you could argue that Corey Wagner's got that as well, although he didn't play fully back last night, who I thought showed some promising signs. But all in all, Freo, if you thought it was a system problem, you're right. But let's not underrate the personnel bit, because they don't have the personnel, I don't think, to pull off a high transition, free-flowing game plan. Because the guys who look so dangerous on transition aren't using the ball very well. And Andy Brayshaw tonight, I think, had 5 kicks. That's not Andy at his best. I know they miss Hayden Young terribly and Nathan O'Driscoll, who's a pretty important part of their ball movement as well earlier on in the season, but this isn't the scoreboard of the St. Kilda game. It wasn't as bad as the St. Kilda game. It was as bad as you could get in terms of following up. They just had to win it. They had 63 inside 50s for, 83 points. Awful. And if Jaya misplays next week, there's going to need to be an explanation as to why, because his form in front of the sticks is not great. And maybe 1 week in the waffle is going to be required. Go back, kick 6, and propel yourself into 25. He was better. He got up the ground. I understand all that, but it wasn't good. Freo in the shit. Collingwood, they're either 1 or 2. If you don't have Collingwood in your top 2 teams in the competition, you're just incorrect. They lost last week. Yeah, I know. Jack Crisp after the siren. Yeah, the Cats, I understand that. You could probably have the Cats in 3rd, but it's Collingwood or it's Brisbane. Probably flip-flops depending on who won last, to be completely honest, but it's Brisbane for mine, and they might do things to North that are going to feel illegal, but that's what I think, guys. Do you like the winners, losers? Is the structure working for you? Comment below. Let me know. St. Kilda Carlton tomorrow, which I think might be a pretty underrated game, to be honest. Fingers crossed it's a better spectacle than the last St. Kilda game, and it wasn't their fault. They kicked 93 points. It's their opponents that were awful. So fingers crossed that's a good one. I hope you guys are enjoying your week. By the time you are watching this, if you're watching it pretty early on, it's about 12:15, and I got called into work and start at 6:30. So I'm feeling good. I can't wait. So have a good one, guys. I appreciate you all for watching. Like the video if you like the video. Subscribe to join the Daz Talks Footy cohort, which you guys have been doing in droves recently, which I really appreciate. I will see you after the St. Kilda and Carlton game. Good night and goodbye.